Hey, welcome to the Teal Tinted Glasses podcast, episode 18. Joining me tonight, we have the full crew, which is exciting. We have the most popular man on YouTube tonight, Mr. Kevin Lacey.
I don't even know how to respond to that. But hi, I'm Kevin Lacey. Thanks for having me on. Sorry to not have been on the last few shows, but here I am, folks. And for those of you out there watching who hate me, deal with it.
And also on the show, of course, is the one, the only Mr. Hockey Jerk.
Yeah, you've all seen enough of me. Let's move on.
All right. Moving on then. Thanks, as always. Thanks for waiting for us. For one, appreciate it. For those who waited for us to come on, very important to me that I put out a statement the other day, and I don't want to get too deep into anything, and I'm not going to. All I'm going to say is it's incredibly important to me that one of the things that was incredibly important to me, was that the audience would never have to choose. So on a night like tonight where, things happen that were beyond everyone's control, I don't mind doing this. So I'm glad that you guys stuck around. I'm glad that you guys, aren't through with hockey talk, and let's get the show going. San Jose Sharks had some recent rounds of cuts in their prospect camp, or not a prospect camp, but preseason camp, training camp. Going to the AHL is Rudolph Balkers, Tim Clifton, Adam Haluka, John McCarthy. I don't think there's really any surprises here. As good as Balkers been, he's not NHL. I don't think he would be as good against a full complement of NHLers. Kevin, any thoughts on any of these guys?
There is one surprise for me, and that was Tim Clifton. Not that he got cut, but that he survived the last round of cuts. And it's not like a knock on Tim Clifton, but when I was over at the one time I was able to make Sharks training camp this summer, or whatever you want to say, Tim Clifton was practicing with all of the players who got cut the last round. So it was news to me that he made it through. He even played against Vegas earlier or at the end of last week. So the Sharks see something in Clifton. It's going to be interesting to see where he falls for the Barracuda this year. Just for the fact that it looks like the coaching staff sees something in him. As for everyone else, no, there's not much of a surprise, especially for the defensemen Bergman, DeSimone, and Middleton all going for the fact of it.
Steer the show. Go ahead.
I'm
just like, just steer the show. Go ahead. I haven't got to defend it. I didn't jerk talk. No, I'm giving you a hard time.
Oh, okay. I was just going on.
No, I'm giving you a hard time. It's fine.
Okay, I was gonna say those three guys just because of the fact that it's Ryan and Heat's battle for the seventh defenseman. So, yeah.
Jerk, any thoughts on the forward and the defense?
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Well, while we're here, goaltender Antoine Bibeau. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead.
Everybody who got cut, no surprises at all. I did think that maybe there was a minuscule chance that Balkers made the opening night roster, but even then, I think that only would have happened if there was a serious preseason injury that forced him to be in the lineup. I mean, I think he's close, but I don't. Yeah, I think he's close, but I don't think he's ready. I think a full year in the Barracuda is going to do wonders for him.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should be sour on Balkers because this happened. I think this is the perfect place for him to go development-wise. I think the AHL is going to do him some good things. I don't look. I mean, has Balkers been great? Yes. Is he better? Is he looking more pro than a Timo Meier, a Kevin LeBanc, a Marcus Sorensen? No, flat out no. I don't even have to see it. I know because people tell me. Antoine Bibeau goes down, obviously. I don't think there's any shock there. Of the players that are still up, though, there's still some interesting players still in camp. Brian Carpenter is still in camp. Barclay Goodrow hasn't been seen, but is technically still on the camp roster. Philip Sandberg, Marcus Sorensen, Kevin LeBanc. Rourke Chartier is another interesting name still in camp. Timo Meier, Danny O'Regan, and then unfortunately Brandon Bolig and Brandon Mashinter. And I say unfortunately just because one of these guys is going to be on the roster, aren't they? One of these guys is going to be on the roster. Jerk.
You are wrong. You're wrong. It's going to be both of them.
Oh man.
But you know, one of the things, especially when you're a young player, you're trying to make a roster. You know, one of the big things is consistency. And if you go back to the what was it, the prospect scrimmage, which I had the benefit of hanging out and watching part of it with Mr. Lacey. That was always fun. You go back to the prospect scrimmage. You go back to the rookie game against the Anaheim Ducks, and then you go to the preseason game that he was in. I believe was also against the Anaheim Ducks. Philip Sandberg consistently has looked good. Now, I by no means am I saying he's challenging for a roster spot, but I think he is going to be this year's Marcus Sorensen, where he looks good and he starts with the Barracuda and then ultimately finds his way to the Sharks if there's a major injury, or say guys like Hansen and Ward are sold off later in the year. I think Sandberg has kind of had an underrated summer. I mean, like I said, by no means am I penciling him in for the opening night roster, but he's a guy to look out for, especially if you frequent a lot of Barracuda games.
You know why Sandberg has very nice upside? He comes from the same program as Melker Karlsson and Victor Arvidsson. Skellefteå.
And I was gonna say, how do you pronounce that for us?
Skellefteå.
Skellefteå, spelt like Skellefteå.
Man, that's just weird. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what Balker's doing on the Barracuda. I think, I mean, there's some names here that are really good because it shows that they see things like a guy like Rourke Chartier. Obviously, they see something in him to still have him in camp. You know, so they want to get him that extra experience, and I think that's great. You know, a guy like Sandberg, same thing. You know, and I don't know if Daniel Regan can make this lineup or Ryan Carpenter are going to make this lineup out of camp, but it's nice that they're there still. Getting that experience. Yes, Haluka has been sent down. So I think, you know, from the forward perspective, I think it's nice that they're still there. On the defense, you know, the notable guys still up is Joakim Ryan, Radim Semek, and Tim Heed obviously are still up with the big club. Heed and Ryan, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see because I honestly, going into the season, in the offseason, I would have said it's Heat's spot. You look at the contracts, the way that they're laid out, you know, Mr. Ryan is on a 2-year this year. You know, obviously Tim Heed, we know what with the waiver situation, he's not, you know, if they decide to send him down, he's not clearing waivers. Right. Well, he might, but that's a risk that if the Sharks are going to send him down, that's a risk they're going to have to be willing to take. Dylan DeMello, I haven't seen any these games, but I know other people who have, and the comments on DeMello have been pretty disheartening, considering it's really, you know, the seventh defenseman spot. It seemed like, you know, Heed and Ryan were going to fight for the 7D, the 7th D, and Dylan DeMello was going to make his ascension up into the 6. And I'm not sold that's the thing anymore.
I'm not either.
Based on comments that I've heard.
Is this a situation of DeMello cracking under pressure more than it is like his skill set? You think?
I think so, only because I think it is only because you go back to the year that the Sharks acquired for Roman Polak. DeMello was playing well in the 6th spot up to that point, and even the games he had last year, he looked good as well, especially on the second power play unit. And then I think, you know, you have Tim Heed comes in, who is, you know, we'll say Brent Burns light. And then you have Small Martin in Joakim Ryan.
Yep.
And not to say that they're going to follow the same path or anything, but like I'm looking at Dylan DeMello and I'm getting a very like Matt Nieto kind of vibe where other people pass him.
That's an interesting comp.
But it makes sense. I mean, you know, and if you wanted to keep it defenseman, you could bring up Matt Irwin, you could bring up Matt Tennyson. It's not a good to be a Matt on the Sharks. Let's be honest here.
This is true.
Yes, Diet Brent Burns for Tim Heed.
Heed's skill set is just, I don't know how you shy away from that. I have no idea if he's durable enough to handle the NHL forwards, but the skill set he has and the dynamic he would bring to a Sharks defense that is lacking offense so much outside of Burns. I don't know how he doesn't make the team, even as great as Ryan has been. But then again, DeMello, ooh.
Well, all things considered, I do think Joakim Ryan, if he does go back to the Barracuda, he's going to be the guy. Like,
oh yeah,
he will have an A. Yeah, he will have an A on his sweater. I'm certain of it.
No.
And he's going to be relied on heavily with Šimek, like you said.
Yeah, with Šimek. See, I don't even say the names right either. Puck guy was in the chat complaining about not saying names right. I butcher them all the time.
That's why we have Kevin.
That's why we have Kevin. Troy Grosnick's still up in camp. I don't think there's anything to read into that, although it's nice again that he's kind of been rewarded for the play that he had in the AHL last season. Had a rough game. Although the team did come back and win, that was a rough start for him in that Arizona game. I don't think that Aaron Dell's spot is in any jeopardy at all. But it's still nice to see Troy Grosnick up.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. Like,
plus, you can't. It's still the training camp's a week away, but I mean, regular season's a week away. But there's no need to be carrying both of your goalies in all the remaining preseason situations.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree completely. Let Jones and Dell eat hot dogs in the stands. Grosnick can back them up. It's fine. Also on the topic of training camp, Logan Couture got hurt. There was really no word on it till the next day when he decided to go skate out. So, because that would have been super bad. I think we can all agree that was bad. Like, I was very unhappy when I saw that he went down on his leg. Because, like, the thing with Couture, like, we can all complain about how fragile Tomas Hertl's been, but like, Couture's fragile everywhere.
In recent history.
Recently, though, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, at least like with Hertl, like, if it's not his knee, he's probably fine. Whereas like Couture, it's like anything that happens to him, you're like, oh god, no, not again.
You know what though, is if you look at the times that Couture has been hurt or breaking his leg, because that was in practice, but like the puck to the mouth, and I know he had another ailment a few years ago that slips my mind, but generally
it was an ankle.
A lot of the injuries that he finds himself getting are because he is going to those greasy areas. I mean,
that's true.
Yes, getting hit in the mouth with a puck is obviously bad.
From Brent Burns, no less.
From Brent Burns. But I mean, when you think about the situation, Couture was going to the front of the net. It's a very normal thing to do. And so, I mean, if you want to, take a very minuscule positive out of all of this, at least he's a hard worker and he wants to be in there every night.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, but we need him, because as much as maybe I'm not the biggest Logan Couture the person, he's still one of the best players on this team. He might even be the best player on this team now, depending on how Thornton recovers from his injury.
Which
I think he's the best player on the team.
Okay. By the way, I saw Joe Thornton firsthand a week ago, completely away from hockey situation, and he was still limping very noticeably, which really shouldn't be a surprise considering the injury that he sustained. But I did find it amusing that the day before he was interviewed by NHL.com as saying, "I'm 100%."
Well, he said he was fine going into the playoffs too, and then we found out he was skating on no knee. So I'm curious to see how Thornton plays out October, because I don't want to see Joe Thornton in a situation, different age obviously than this player, but I don't want him in a situation as Tomas Hertl before or Robbie Fabry now, where he comes back after 4 months, which is an absurd amount of time for an ACL tear and an MCL tear.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at Fabry now, blew out his knee again. I don't want Thornton coming back too soon, even if he is Mr. Captain and ferocity and all that stuff. If he's not ready to go, I'm willing to sit him out in October for the rest of the season, but that's just not what Thornton is about.
Pay him $8 million and sit him for the whole season. I mean, you can. It's the way you have insurance,
Hey,
but
that LTIR would lead to some very nice cap space.
yeah, that would they would combine with the 8 million that Doug Wilson already hasn't used.
Matt Duchesne, give us a call.
All right, so now we got to get serious. Obviously, I didn't want to cover this story because it wasn't a hockey story, and then Joel Ward spoke up, and now it's a hockey story. So I'm gonna ask you. I know some people are already probably rolling their eyes, and I'm gonna ask you to simply just indulge me for a few minutes here, and I'm just gonna say my piece. I'm not gonna. You can yell at me in the chat. I'm not responding. I want to get through this as quickly as possible, not because I'm ashamed to talk about this or anything like that. I know that not everyone here is going to be super jacked about this topic, so I don't want to beat it to death. I kind of have a simple thing I want to say about it. I promise not to be overly preachy. At least I'm going to try not to be preachy. I have like one part where I might be a little preachy. And then, whatever. If you have something you want to say to me on the topic, I'm more than willing to hear you. Yell at me on Twitter. I'm not going to let the chat drag this topic out. Disclaimer, you can start hitting the skip button on your things. We'll go. And then whatever, right? All right. I need my notes because they're in front of me. Look I am Canadian. And I know that by being Canadian, like Joel Ward, a lot of people are like, well, this isn't your problem. But let's be honest. Canada's not this utopia of everyone loves each other and everything's perfect. Canada has its issues, and racism is definitely one of them. If Joel Ward takes a knee through both anthems, I would not be offended in the slightest, because we've had problems with racism as far as minorities in larger cities, similar to the problems that happen in the States. And we also it doesn't get brought up enough, but we have a terrible history with our Indigenous people as well. Joel Ward has been a target of racism in hockey. I can't speak for Joel Ward, so I'm not going to, but there have been incidences just recently where fans have taken to Twitter to call him the N-word after he helped eliminate their teams. This happened. And I'm not saying, that happened, and that's a thing. So I get that, Ward's also Canadian, but this is a gentleman who's lived in the United States for his entire career, which has spanned probably close to 2 decades at this point. On the topic of, of this would disrespect the veterans. Now, I'm not going to get into my personal feeling about the flag, and everyone sees the flag differently. So I'm not going to tell you. I don't have the arrogance to think that I can sit here and tell you what the flag should mean to you. I'm not going to do that, but I can tell you what it means to me. And while I think it represents the country for sure, I don't see the knee as a disrespect to the troops, because I feel that what the troops have died for is so that you have that option to protest peacefully and, make your statement. Now, I understand for some people the flag, represents military and whatnot, and that's fine. If you are one of those people, I have 2 questions for you, and this is where I might get a little preachy. Do you, as a person who is the military flag, blah, 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 do you do these 2 things? When the VA gets another round of cuts, are you calling your congressman or your senator? And do you donate to veterans, charities, et cetera, et cetera? If you can answer yes to either of those questions, I'm clearly not talking to you. But if you're one of these keyboard warriors on Twitter that hasn't served and doesn't do either of those things, then maybe if you want to show some respect to the veterans, you would use one of those avenues, which would be far more respectful, because I think that while standing is nice, I think that putting food in their belly and giving them a place to stay is far more respectful than how veterans are treated in both countries to this time. Preaching over. On the topic of politics and sports, politics have always been in sports. Do you think that the 72 Summit Series or the Miracle on Ice don't have politics in them? Like, the Miracle on Ice didn't even win the damn gold medal. They beat the Finns to win the gold medal. It was because they beat the Russians, our mortal freaking enemy at the time. 72 Summit Series with Canada, same thing. Russia, big evil, mortal enemy. Politics have always been in sports. I understand that when people say they don't like politics, it's generally politics they don't like. I get that. Look, I don't want politics I don't like rammed down my throat either. But it happens. At the end of the day, freedom is complicated. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong because you feel the flag, stands for a certain thing. That's not my place. And as far as all of this talk about how, it has to be other people that take a knee too. Yeah, okay, fine. I agree. Like, yeah, it would be helpful if it's not just Joel Ward and Wayne Simmons taking a knee on opening night. But if a player chooses not to, then I think that has to be respected too. If someone stands, they shouldn't be ridiculed for standing, just like they shouldn't be ridiculed for taking a knee. You can't have it both ways. And like I said, freedom's a complicated thing. I don't think it's binary. I don't think it's easy. But, that's kind of my take on it. Like I said, I'm not going in the chat. I'm not dragging this out. I know Jerk has some things that he wants to say. But I think that's my take on the Joel Ward issue. I don't think we'll address it again. I won't promise, but I don't think we will. Because we can argue politics all day, and I'm happy to have a polite conversation about it on Twitter. But I'm not going to bog the show down any further than this. Jerk, the floor is yours.
Well, I kind of, it's basically the Constitution for this country was written with the idea of freedom of expression and difference of opinion and that sort of thing. And if you have a different opinion than I do, that's fine. It's your right. I respect you for it. And I personally think it's kind of, hypocritical to say, oh, you're wrong for doing this, but let me tell you how right I am, without actually considering everything. I guess the moral of my story is do whatever you believe in, and don't let people make you feel bad or guilty for having an opinion that's different than theirs. That's basically it. Back to hockey. You're muted.
Everyone respects your opinion unless it comes to the Coyotes, is what AJ said. Getting it back to hockey.
Well, the Arizona Coyotes, let me explain you a thing. They are good, okay? And AJ needs to accept that. We'll do this off the air, but I have a wager for you, my friend. So why don't you go ahead and shoot me a DM and we'll talk.
Oh, this is good. So the other thing that happened, NBC has told the NHL to be, speaking of politics and hockey, the NHL is basically, the NBC has told the NHL they will not be providing any national broadcast during the Olympics because of their decision to not go, obviously. Obviously, when you look at the rights holders, the rights for the Olympics are far more expensive than that of the NHL. So obviously, just you can simply weigh it out and go. Now, something that I've seen a lot of panic about in Shark circles is that because that we have an NBC affiliate, that would affect us. This isn't going to affect your regional broadcasts. Your regional broadcasts have never been wall-to-wall Olympic coverage. It's always been the national channels. So, and let's be honest, it wouldn't affect us anyway, because even if we had like the Kings Sharks rivalry night, we'd still get Jamie and Randy anyway. What are we worried about? But so you're still going to get your regional games. They're just not going to be televised nationally, which isn't the end of the world. Any thoughts on this, Kevin?
It only affects the Penguins and the Blackhawks because
that's
those are the only teams that would be playing during the Olympics anyway. And then a random Minnesota Wild game, which probably would be against the Blackhawks. So.
And I want to bring up a point, too, that AJ just made in the chat. He said, why would NBC broadcast NHL games during the Olympics? They're going to be showing the Olympics. That actually is excellent point, because I did see a report that came out after this whole FU NHL thing gained some steam that, the NBC had previously cut the NHL from its February schedule long before the NHL had decided whether or not they were going.
Right.
At least that's what I had read. I may have totally screwed that up. I'll have to check it again, but I'm pretty sure that that NBC already kind of had this decision in the back of their mind.
Oh, I mean, they pay like $7 billion to broadcast, I think like 3 or 4 games maybe, and they paid like the NHL like significantly less. Maybe I have the numbers wrong, but I know the number they paid for the Olympics is far more, considering you're talking 2 weeks rather than the 10-year term of the NHL deal.
Yeah. Now I have a question. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wish they would pay us $7 million to do a show.
For sure. Sponsored by NBC.
Now, I have a question for you folks, and this is for anyone in the chat or for both of you guys. Randy Hahn and the rest of the broadcast team, they're employees of the Sharks, correct? Not Comcast Sports, or sorry, NBC Sports?
That's my understanding of it.
I think so, because they made the transition from Fox Sports Bay Area and that sort of stuff.
Okay. So if that falls the same thing in line with the national broadcast, I guess that would mean Mike Emmerich and those parties are employees of the National Hockey League, not of NBC Sports. So
I believe they're NBC. Now, I believe the national guys are paid by NBC.
Okay.
Just the regionals are generally paid by the team.
Okay. So, because my thought was, who would be broadcasting the Olympics on those networks if all of the NHL guys that they use aren't allowed to be a part of it? And then the other thing, and then if Mike Emmerich, Pierre Maguire, etc., those parties do go to the Olympics, is the NHL so I don't know if jaded's the right word, but would they hold a grudge against those commentators next time there's a television deal to be had?
They might. It'd be interesting.
Almost like a scabs kind of deal.
If they do hold a grudge, though, I personally think it would be unjustified, just because, at the end of the day, Doc and Eddie and Pierre, those guys work for, NBC, and, who is the NHL to say, oh, the company you worked for asked you to do this? Don't, like,
right.
Like, obviously the NHL likes Doc Emmerich, and that's why he's made it from Fox to ESPN to NBC. But
here's the thing,
go
though.
ahead.
If they want to hold a grudge against Mike Milbury, I have no problem with this. In fact, I encourage
absolutely, please.
What are you talking about? Mike?
Yes,
Mike Milbury just got an upgrade to Ed Olczyk's position on the broadcast.
Don't remind me. I have another reason not to watch national broadcasts in the States.
I think the reason why they put Mike Milbury on the national broadcast doing color is because they want people to stop saying mean things about Pierre.
It's true.
So I think it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, who do you hate less?
The other thing that happened today was the Board of Governors made the offside challenge for the face-off. That's actually legitly a thing now. I guess apparently that was what they were doing in the preseason, was testing it, and the Board of Governors approved it today, so it is official rule going into the season. What say you?
I think it's dumb. They 2 years ago, they made a rule that was going to erase the negative effects of another rule that they have. And now this summer, they've created a new rule to erase the negative effects of that previous rule that they had. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, not to be, overzealous or anything, but, how much you want to bet in 2 or 3 years the NHL makes a rule that says, if you're losing and you lose a challenge, you don't get a penalty, or some weird caveat to the rule just because it doesn't have the effect that they had intended for it to have.
I just hate it because the whole rule is there because of Matt Duchene being a mile offside. And now we fight over ticky tacky, was the skate on the ice? Was it a millimeter offside? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's an overreaction to a play that happens so little, and now it's just made way worse.
The goal line, if the puck goes over the goal line, I'm okay with extra scrutiny. But I do feel that the offsides thing, it needs to be, if you can't figure out if player is offside within a couple of replays, you need to let the call be what it is. Because it's either going to be blatantly obvious offside or it's going to be not that blatant. And if it's not that blatant, not that obvious, why are we wasting time on it? Let's just keep it rolling. Like, I don't need 1/32 of a frame offside to negate a play. Like, that's just too much. You really think the players are that smart that they can get 1/32 ahead of everything else and cause a goal?
Agreed. Completely agreed. Go ahead.
I don't think that's, like Kevin said, I don't think that's exactly running through their mind when they're playing the game. And while we're on that subject, shame on the NHL for not making the blue line and goal line camera angles available to the public until after the decision. I think that's the most asinine thing ever.
Yes. For the things that the NHL does right, they do so many more things wrong.
I almost wonder if that's a contractual thing with the officials union, because, I mean, you see it all throughout any sport where people want to see a replay and they don't, and the reason is it's in the contracts of all the officials associations.
That could very well be. I don't know for sure.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Got to jump into the mailbag here again. I know I said this last show. We're going to try and cut these shows back down to an hour. Good luck, Ian. Getting into the mailbag. I have questions and I forgot to ticky tacky who put them on. So if I answer your question, and just be thankful I answered it, and don't get mad at me for not attributing it to you. You know who you are. We appreciate your questions. Is there any early trades that you think the Sharks could make, or any trades possible over the course of the season? And I think in this, the way I'd like to approach this is there any players that you feel could be on the hot seat this year going forward, just based on salary cap or any reason really? Kevin, what do you think?
I don't know. I haven't thought too much into trades right now, because we're still
don't
in
even know who's on the
preseason.
team yet.
What's that?
I said I don't even know who's on the team.
We don't even know who's on the team yet. So I need to see how everything plays out, especially with how the league's all about parity. So in essence, everybody's got a chance right now, except for Vancouver. No, I'm just messing Vancouver, but not so much. But anyway, nobody should be making a trade unless it's for someone who's having a god-awful training camp, which I'm not seeing that at anybody on the Sharks, or a situation where the Coyotes go, oh, we really need a defenseman. Hey, Florida, you're giving us Jason Demers. You're trying to get rid of Jason Demers at any cost? Sure, we'll take him, because that's a no-brainer trade for Chaika, in my opinion.
Oh, what a good pick. That defense core is stupid. I mean, considering now we don't know what Oliver Ekman-Larsson apparently doesn't have any permanent damage, but he's still a little bit hurt from that game with the Sharks. Chychrun's out indefinitely, so that definitely hurts. But bringing Jason Demers in, I'd still rather have Chychrun, to be honest, but bringing Jason Demers in with that line that already has Hjalmarsson and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Stone, it's stupid. It's stupid.
Right. So unless it's like that trade that falls into your lap, you can't really pull the trigger on many trades until third week of the season at earliest. I mean, most of the time in the NHL, you don't see the first trade. Well, at least back when trades actually happened during the season. It wasn't until Halloween that we saw any kind of movement. So if anything, it would be a waiver wire pickup.
Rob asking if Claude Giroux gets traded this season. I don't think so, because I don't think Claude Giroux's value at this point is probably at an all-time low. I don't think you could sell. I think you'd want him to bounce back at least a little bit before you tried to move him. I think you get pennies on the dollar for him right now. Hockey Jerk.
So this season, I kind of look at the way I looked at the 2013 season, where yes, the Sharks were in a playoff spot, but they still had guys like Michael Handzus, like Ryan Clough, like Douglas Murray, who they shipped off, and I think if the young guys, LeBanc, Sorensen, Timo Meier, even a Danny O'Regan or Philip Sandberg, if he makes leaps ahead of all those other guys, I think you could see a guy like Joel Ward, a guy like Yannick Hansen, maybe if things aren't going well for them, get shipped out for a late round pick and then have the young guys inserted into the lineup. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing we saw last year where, yes, the Sharks were a good team, but, they made the decision of, well, we don't need Wingles or Matt Nieto. We can move on from those guys. And even the year before when, they moved on from guys like Ben Smith and guys like, Alex Stalock and Rafi Torres.
AJ's just ripping you in the chat. That's hilarious.
I know. He always rips me.
Yeah. I actually, I have a name. Like, I think, yeah, if things go wrong, especially at the deadline, I think if the Sharks aren't where they think they should be or need to be, guys like Ward and Hansen are good deadline bait. I think they could both fetch decent returns.
Yep.
A guy that is on my list that I would not be shocked to not see finish out the season in San Jose is Justin Braun. Because of the improvements. Like, we're talking, like last year we weren't talking about Ryan being on the Sharks this year. This year we're talking about Ryan being on the Sharks this year. We already talked about he being good enough to be on the Sharks last year. Justin Braun is going to be due a payday. Had a down season. And look at the cap space is going to have to come from somewhere here. You already have $14 million or $15 million between Burns and Vlasic. The cap money, you're gonna have to do something on defense, and who's gonna skate with Pickles? Anyone who skate with Pickles. Pickles is a damn good defenseman. So I would not be shocked to see Justin Braun moved, especially if you think that the Sharks are going to make like a, if you have the pie in the sky illusions of a guy like John Tavares or Matt Duchene, especially in a Sharks jersey, Braun has to go the other way.
Yeah, agreed. And, you brought up a good point too, where he kind of had a down year and his contract is slowly coming to an end. I believe he's got this year and then I think 2 more years after. But no, I think you're absolutely right. And I feel like it's not something that's talked about as much. Don't get me wrong, Justin Braun is an amazing defenseman.
I don't dislike Justin Braun. I just think if you try to look objectively and logically, Braun makes the most sense to move.
No, yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I think there are a lot of teams that are curious as to what Justin Braun can do away from Marc-Edouard Vlasic. And then, also like you said, Marc-Edouard Vlasic could play with, Rafi Torres with
Burns.
Rafi Torres with 2 surgically repaired ACLs, and he would still be fine.
All the zombie lower torso. Oh my goodness. And it's interesting because when you look at the lineups, I think you added this in. Ward, has been on the quote unquote 5th line. Could the young players be pushing him out? I would not be shocked to see Joel Ward kind of rotate in and out of the lineup as the 13th defenseman. What do you think about Kevin? What are your thoughts on Mr. Joel Ward playing on the 5th line?
I think Joel Ward is at a state in his career where, you mentioned he's definitely a serviceable player for, at the trade deadline if the Sharks don't make it, and I agree with that. I think in the same role or in the same light, he could be that for the Sharks, where Joel Ward doesn't need to play every day anymore. And in fact, if Joel Ward skates maybe 55 games for the Sharks this year and the Sharks make the playoffs, you're going to have a better Joel Ward in the playoffs.
Yep,
because
I agree.
As I said all last year, when people were really down about Ward throughout, and in some respects, rightfully so.
Rightfully so, yeah.
Joel Ward was brought in to perform in the playoffs, not to perform in the regular season, to perform in the playoffs. So I'm okay with him being on the quote unquote fifth line because especially if you want your young guys to improve, to get that ice time, someone's got to move down. And it's not saying that Ward is going to be off the team this year, but especially in the preseason, I think too much is being made of it at the moment. But if he is the 13th skater for large stretches of the season, that would be a concern.
Yeah, I think rotate him in and out because look at Joel Ward's not getting any younger, and like you said, you want him ready to go for the playoffs. So I'm not upset if Joel Ward plays 65, 70 games this season. Even 60, I'm fine with that if he's rotating in and out and young guys are getting a chance. If he's proves by the end of the season, he's going to be good enough to go for the playoffs. I'm fine with that. Look, Joel Ward is a beast in the playoffs. Like he's done some really quote unquote clutch things in the playoff, but I don't think he needs to be an every night guy at this point in his career.
I like what AJ said about using Ward on the fourth line like they used Jeremy Roenick. I think that's an excellent point.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I dig it. I absolutely dig it.
Especially when you consider, and then we can move on, there were times where Jeremy Roenick was a healthy scratch, so somebody else could play. And I think that's a bang-on parallel right there.
Is there any this is from Laura, I remember. Is there any promotions you guys are specifically looking forward to as far as like things that the bobbleheads and whatnot? I don't know. I don't care. As long as they come in a pretty box, I'm cool with them.
I know there's a Joe Pavelski thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but I know there's a Joe Pavelski thing and I want it. And then I believe the fan appreciation giveaway is a figurine of Thornton and Burns from their barbershop commercial. I believe I read that.
Nice. Always need the baubles. Dual Burns jumbo bottle. Kevin, anything you're looking forward to as far as promotion stuff?
Honestly, I don't care. I think way too much is made of promotions. Like I don't go to the
crossover.
I don't go to Sharks games for the promotions. I go to Sharks games for the Sharks games, and I wish that ticket management would focus more on the games and the presentation instead of these damn Warriors jersey night that I don't care about because I'm not a Warriors fan.
Throwing down the gauntlet.
I'm just saying, like, focus on your fans. Don't focus on the little things they're trying to sell on eBay.
Some of the fans like the little things. Steve said just the W is fine. And I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw that too. I agree with that 100%.
I do need bobbleheads to lick. That's totally true. I mean, I could still lick cold open.
Sorry,
it's not really, I feel like I've caused a detriment to his career at this point. Now they've signed Thomas Vanek, and I think Thomas Vanek took his spot. So, oh man, maybe I've done him wrong. I don't know. There's some things that are obviously really, really cool. But I don't. Anytime just in locally too, because obviously junior hockey, they do all kinds of promotions and stuff to try and get people in the rink. And honestly, what matters more to me is who's playing, rather than what the giveaway is, right? Like if London's in town, I want to watch that game because it's London. They could be giving away $1 million. I mean, well, okay, $1 million, I would go. But you know what I mean? Like they could give me a cool glowing sign that floats over my head all the time and says I'm the man. But I just want to watch the Hounds play the Knights.
Yeah. Everything else is nice on top. Like
right, exactly.
The figurines, the Burns grill or whatever, it's nice to have as extra, but I don't like that it's the focal point to bring people to come to the games. Like that's the part that needs to get.
Yeah, to me, I've always felt like the giveaways when I've gone to a game locally it's an added bonus. It's not. I don't circle any specific night on the calendar and be like, oh, this is stuffed dog that barks when you press it day. I don't care.
That would have to be Vlasic's promotion, by the way.
Oh yes, that would be. Well, I mean locally because we have the Greyhounds, right? So barking.
Yeah.
Okay. I was asked by Rob because we've done all the other divisions and we did the Pacific on our own. That left us the Central Division. I don't know how we're going to do this. I guess just kind of go through your bottom to top, or top to bottom. I don't even care. If you have anything specific to say as to why, go ahead and spit it out. I don't want to get into a point where we're kind of like team, because that takes too long. Kevin, do you want to go first?
I need to prepare for this.
You need to prepare. Hockey Jerk, are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be. All right,
go.
Now, I can't give you standings, but I can tell you my impression of every team.
Sure, I'll let you do that.
So Winnipeg Jets, if they can get good goaltending this year, they're going to be a top 3 team.
Winnipeg's look good in the preseason, by the way.
Yeah, their forward depth, if you ask me, is unparalleled. I mean, yeah, that Mark Scheifele and Patrick Laine guys, those are okay, but they also have Blake Wheeler, Brian Little, Nikolai Ehlers, Marco Dano, Kyle Connor, Matt Perreault, the list goes on. Okay, so that's Winnipeg. Minnesota, I think they're going to have a good regular season and fall apart in the playoffs. I just think Scandala was a huge part of their team, and you could argue that he was the right guy to trade, but even then, I think it's going to be kind of an adjustment period for them, at least to start. Chicago, it's year 2, no, actually year 3 of the reunion tour.
That's true.
They got Brandon Saad back, and they got somebody else
Patrick
back
Sharp.
too. They got Patrick Sharp back. So year 3 of the reunion tour. I still don't think it gets them more than 2 playoff wins. I really think Chicago's peaked. Let's see, that's 3. St. Louis, I think they missed the playoffs. They just have way too many problems with injuries.
Yeah.
Plus the loss of Shattenkirk. I mean, say what you want about Kevin Shattenkirk. He was a big part of that defensive core. Let's see, Dallas. Dallas has Ben Bishop, so I think they'll be better. But I'm not really sure if they'll be Central Division champion Dallas Stars or, score 5 goals in a game and lose 7-5 Dallas Stars.
Right.
Who else is in that division?
Colorado.
Colorado, bad, and they should feel bad. Moving on. Nashville. I think the acquisition of Nick Bonino is a good pickup for them, especially with Mike Fisher on the way out. I think Nick Bonino is finally going to get a chance. I think he's going to get a chance to show what he can do as a second line center. Plus I imagine guys like Arvidsson and Forsberg and Ryan Johansson are still going to have good years. Mm-hmm. And that defensive core is still good. Even with Alexei Yemelin, it's even better.
Yeah, even with Brian Ellis. Oh, it's still stupid.
Yeah, they're still damn good. And I believe I got all the teams, so somebody else can talk now.
Kevin, you ready? You want me to go?
Yeah, I can go. I'm actually, now that you mentioned it, I'm trying to pull it up because if I recall, Nick Bonino led forwards last season in shot blocks and was top 5 in penalty kill minutes or something like that. So I think Nick Bonino is a perfect replacement for Mike Fisher. But anyway, that's a side tangent. My standings are Colorado in 7th. Gee, I know, mind-blowing stuff here. I think I'm going to go with the Dallas Stars at 6th. I still don't believe in that. And even though Ben Bishop is a million times better than the goaltending that they had, I don't know. That's a team that I'll believe it when I see it. And I don't, for a team that is built on offense, I don't know why Ken Hitchcock is their coach, because he's all not about offense. So there's going to be a lot of change over there. 5, I'm going to reluctantly choose the Winnipeg Jets. But then again, now that I think about it, I did say that earlier that 5 teams out of the Central would make the playoffs this year. So, hey, I guess Winnipeg's still making the playoffs. They have looked excellent here in the preseason. I've been watching them going, oh my God, the Sharks are going to have so much trouble with these guys, because as long as they have the puck, they're amazing. They're so fast from forward 1 through forward 13, 14. They're incredibly fast. It's just when they don't have the puck, that's the worry. Fourth, I've got the Minnesota Wild. Not really going to get much into them, but, Dubnyk again, Second and third place, I'm hesitant, but I'm going to go with Nashville at third and Chicago at second. Let's not forget that Nashville was the 16th team out of 16 in the playoffs last season. They underachieved all year, but they still barely got in and then went all the way to the finals. So I want to see more improvement out of there. What's up?
They had a really brutal first half, though.
Yeah.
Where the second half was pretty solid.
Yeah, true. And but I want to see they've got a lot of nice pieces, but I want to see it all come together for a full season. So by that mark, I'm going to have Chicago at second, because I do think that even though they lost Hjalmarsson, I think Connor Murphy is an excellent replacement for him. I think he's vastly underrated. And I think that Saad is going to resurge with the Blackhawks. Number one, I have the team that Hockey Jerk said won't make the playoffs. I have the St. Louis Blues winning the President's Trophy, but not going to finals.
Hot take central.
Wow. Okay. My number 7th seed is the Colorado Avalanche. They're not going to be as bad as they were last year. Last season, a lot of things went very wrong. Just because they're going to be better doesn't mean they're going to be good. They're in 7th. Number 6, I have the who do I have here? I feel like I've kind of changed my mind on a few things. Number 6, I have, look at the scary thing in this division is 1 through 6 could really fall any number of ways. Like, that's how close this division is. The only team that's really out of it is he just asked if we can have a wager show like tomorrow. I'm not opposed to it. That's great. Sorry. My number 6 team, it's so hard. I'm gonna go. I kind of have St. Louis there, like, because I don't know what they're gonna be like under Mike Yeo. I mean, the Fabry injury is huge. Injury problems. It's a huge issue. I still not a big Jake Allen guy. And I just feel like this division stuff, like it's one of those things where like teams have to finish in weird play, like someone has to finish 5th or someone has to finish 6th, and it could be anyone. And that's how close I feel the Central is this year. The next team I have in line would be in the number 5 seed would be the Minnesota Wild. I think the Wild they're an interesting team, but they're not a consistent team at all. It seems like every time they show some progress, Dubnyk has a good season and then a bad season and a good season and then a bad season. I'm not a big fan of the Wild as they are currently constructed. Moving up to number 4, I have the Winnipeg Jets. I think the Winnipeg Jets are going to be the most improved team in the division, and as well they should be at this point, because this is a team that has had, they've had so many good prospects and stuff, and they've done so well. I mean, I don't think that Cheveldayoff has done enough in the trade department, but the drafting and development is the one thing they've hit. I think Connor Hellebuck's going to have a better year. And I also think that if you look at Steve Mason, usually his first year on a team is usually pretty good. So going by that, I think the Jets improve. Third place team is the Chicago Blackhawks. I think that Chicago Blackhawks are in decline, but they are still good enough to they're still good enough to be a playoff team. My second seeded team is the Dallas Stars. I'm concerned about their goaltending, but with Hitchcock playing a better defensive system, they might be able to make Lettinen look decent when Ben Bishop ultimately destroys his grind. But also I think that, like a couple of years ago, I believe that this is a lineup that can just glass cannon their way through the regular season. Because that's what they were. The year that they went to the playoffs and won the Central, they were just a glass cannon. And I think they can totally do that again with Radulov. Plus you got, healthy Sagan, healthy Ben. I mean, that team's going to be just stupid on offense. Are they going to be good defensively? They'll probably be better with Hitchcock, to be completely honest. My number 1 team is the Nashville Predators. I feel like the Predators, like I said earlier to Kevin, that they had a brutal first half and then a really good second half. I feel like this team, I mean, you look at, again, like Jerk said, you look at this defense core, it's stupid. I don't think there's a better one in the league. And they have enough punch up front to get things done. And if Pecorine can be even half of Pecorine, they'll be fine. And if they don't, then they have UC Saros ready to, waiting in the wings. Predators are going to be fine. So yeah, that's my Central Division. Yay me. What else we got here as we creep up?
I'm just amazed at how differing our opinions of the Blues are, Kevin.
Yeah, and the Stars, because I'm the one who picked them to be 6th.
Yeah.
The Blues, I think the Blues are very well rounded, and it's not even a. I don't think they have as much offense as they need, especially without Fabry being gone. But I think that Tarasenko is poised for a 50-goal season without Hitchcock. I mean, before he was already
Nash
near
had
there.
A 50-goal season on Columbus, and look where that got him.
What was that?
I said Rick Nash had a 50-goal season on Columbus, and look where that got him.
But I think that every piece, except for maybe Fabry, every piece that the Blues have lost this offseason, they have a better replacement with their youth. I think that they have a lot of young pieces, nice young pieces that can go up and play just fine, especially the defenseman Schmaltz. Oh man, I can't remember the other guy. Schmaltz, Wallman, Dunn. I think they all look good. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big believer in Jake Allen either, but I also feel like, well, now that he finally has this year of uncertainty out of the way, I think he can actually just focus on hockey now. So.
The thing about the Blues is, for me, is like they're just kind of there. Like there's nothing.
That's how I feel about Minnesota.
I agree. I feel the same way. Like they're two teams where like they're just kind of there. There's nothing exceptional about them. There's nothing terrible about them. They're just there.
Kevin,
I forget about them because they're just that.
Well, that's why I said they'll win the President's Trophy, but then they won't do anything in the playoffs.
That's right.
So, Kevin, how many goals does Vladimir Sobotka score this year?
55. Oh, Sobotka. I thought you said Tarasenko.
Jeez.
Sobotka? Oh.
All right, last question, then we got to get out of here. Who is your, this is from J. Clark 5000. Who is your foreseen, Cinderella team this season in the NHL?
Carolina Hurricanes. And now we're in danger zone because we've mentioned the Hurricanes and Hellebuck. So we're one away from summoning Drew. But
I asked Drew to come on the show. He said no.
Well, Drew's a dick, so what do you expect?
I know. He's like, I have to work, and that's important. And I'm like, really, dude? Like a podcast, like work podcast. Let's weigh this out here. No, sorry, work, guys. No,
but
I'm gonna go Arizona.
Okay, Kevin.
Well, to have a different opinion, I will go with Winnipeg, but I also think it's Carolina.
That's fair. Oh, look at now you've summoned Drew over. Damn it. He's coming to kill us in our sleeps. All right, guys. Yeah, Drew needs permission from Zeke, probably. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for waiting for us to come on. Thanks for listening to me be all preachy. Coming soon. I don't have an exact date yet. I know we had some Barracuda questions. The good news is that our new show, Barracuda Breakdown, will be starting soon. I don't know when. I don't know how. But it's going to start soon, and we'll answer all your Barracuda questions then.
In fact, it'll probably happen soon because their regular season starts next Friday.
There you go. So we'll probably have to do a show before that then. So yeah, Barracuda Breakdown is our new Barracuda-centric show. So we're going to run this show once a week and that show once a week, and that'll be our contribution to your podcast life. Aside from that, final thoughts, Mr. Kevin Lacey.
I hope I'm right. Blues for President's Trophy. 6th. Sharks. Well, I hope I'm wrong about the Sharks missing the playoffs, but I hope I'm right about everything else. Brock Besser for Calder. Pittsburgh 3-peats over Edmonton. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, all right, guys, remember to pray slip bank and say 3 Timos before bed. That's true. Always, always.
Anyway, I'm at Kevin Lacey 22. Thanks for having me, guys.
Mr. Hockey Jerk.
Oh, Mr. Hockey Jerk. All right. So, number one, not a Penguins fan.
Lies.
Yeah, I know.
Hashtag
I'm
fake
full of
news.
it. Fake news. Hashtag sad. I hope I'm right. I hope St. Louis is worst in the Central Division. Just to rub it into Kevin's face.
Nice. Love it.
Jessica saying, "Wait, Kevin just mentioned my favorite team." We had some discussions, me and myself and AJ, who's in the chat. The Pucknologist podcast over on Teal Town USA is returning soon. Like
Dun, dun,
we're down
dun.
to we're down to like days here. We're really close, and I'm really excited because it's a lot of new content, a lot of different content, hoping to keep the interest there, keep it fresh, keep it fun. So definitely look out for that over on tealtownusa.com. And then just a little joke because I was messing around in the chat before we started. Ian, what ice cold cola beverage are you drinking?
I have a Diet Pepsi as always.
See, I have a Coke.
We have to fight now. Diet Coke's terrible. I'm sorry. Like I like Coke, like normal Coke, but Diet Coke is terrible.
And all joking aside, you can follow me at Twitter at hockey_jerk, where the jokes and the fun times never have a curfew.
Is that confirmed, Christine? Sorry.
Yes, Hugh Hefner has died, and that's
wow.
At the age of 91.
Wow.
I am at Ian Blogs Hockey on the Twitter machine. You can find me there, mostly talk about hockey, but it is an Ian Twitter, so sometimes I veer off the hockey topic and I will not stick to sports. But I encourage you to engage with me anyway. That's it. Everyone, have yourself a fantastic evening, and we will see you sooner than later, I hope.
Yeah, if we're not on before then, we'll see you next Wednesday night at the Shark Tank.
Woohoo! All right, peace out.